Hey everyone, the new season pass is here and we've got Zabu, and Zabu is an absolutely fantastic card that might even be a little overtuned. So expect a whole lot of Zabu in your games until a potential patch or change happens, because the card is really good. And I've got 6 decks for you, all of which are really experimental and early in their testing phases. So in these decks, I am expecting you to give you like a shell or a framework for you to begin with, and I'm expecting you to be able to make some adjustments, talk in the comments with others about different substitutions and ideas you guys might have, because again, I've been playing through the night and through the morning with Zabu, but it's literally been out for less than 24 hours, right? So through the week, I'm going to be providing more refined deck lists, so stay tuned to the channel. With that being said, Zabu is very strong. I've got 6 decks for you, 5 of which will utilize Zabu, and 1 just completely counters Zabu and makes anyone playing it feel really bad. So let's get started with deck number 1. Let's start today's video with deck number 1, which is the Devil Zabusaur. Now, everything in this video is going to be Pool 3 exclusive. I'll do a separate video for Pool 2 and under, but basically what we're doing here is Devil Zabusaur is interesting because what it gives you is it gives you the opportunity to basically use cards that are great value, a 4/6 plain White Queen, adding cards to your hand, which really benefits Devil Dinosaur. You're able to get Moon Girl out relatively cheap, which helps replicate your hand, increasing the power of Devil Dinosaur, and even giving you a second Devil Dinosaur for a turn 5 and 6 play. You also have the very consistent turns of Agent 13, Quinjet, and of course Cable, which is absolutely great. You have the Armorling, which protects the Devil Dinosaur, and obviously you have the Shang-Chi as tech. Just be sure that your armor and Shang-Chi don't work in against each other, which can be a little awkward. You also have the Drax, which is a great turn 6 play because you're able to better predict where the opponent is going to play, and of course with Zabu out, it's only a 2-cost play. You also have the Enchantress, which is a great counter for Zabu itself. It's also worth noting here that you want to be careful how you use Enchantress in conjunction with Devil Dinosaur. You can also play someone like Cosmo if you wish to protect your Devil Dinosaur or your Zabu from Enchantresses and others, but it's also kind of worth noting that playing that way can also kind of set you behind in terms of your actual tempo. You also have the Jessica Jones. Jessica Jones cannot be safe for turn 6, must be played on turn 4 or 5, and basically allows you the opportunity to get additional power in a lane for pretty much no downside. Not playing into a lane for a turn is not usually a big deal in my experience. Regardless, I do think Devil Zabusaur is one of the best archetypes that you can experiment with if you're trying to figure out how you can use Zabu in the current meta. The next deck we're going to talk about is the Zabu Dracula list. Now, I really like this list because it does a lot of things really well. Namely, it does the traditional Sunspot Armor Storm lane in conjunction with someone like Jessica Jones, though that is a whole separate win condition. So you have the win condition of having a very straightforward Sunspot Infinite list where you win a lane with Sunspot Armor Storm and Jessica Jones, and you trade the other one with the Infinite to allow your board state to basically advantage 2 specific lanes, giving the third. Now, the other side to this is if you don't have Storm, you can actually Sunspot Armor and you can Zabu, which is really interesting because it still allows you to play Jessica Jones. Now, the important thing to understand here is that you have both America Chavez and you have the Infinite. So if you're able to dump your hand, which you are often able to with Zabu, what you can do is you can have someone like Dracula on the board by turn 4. And what that allows you to do, especially in conjunction with Zabu, is target either America Chavez or Infinite with the discard of Dracula, allowing you to get a lot of additional power on the board with a kind of surprise element to your opponent. This is also important to understand because a lot of players will not account for hitting Dracula with Infinite in the lower stages of MMR. You also have the Rock Slide, which I think is just valuable in this list because it also provides a lot of dilution for the opposing deck. Now, there's one counter synergy you got to be kind of aware of. Generally speaking, Rescue tends to really work well in these lists. However, it's worth noting that Rescue does have counter synergy with someone like Sunspot, because if you intend to skip turn 5, Sunspot and Rescue, you're just not playing a card to activate the on reveal for Rescue. So if you're looking to substitute any particular card in this list, it could be Rescue. In my early testing, I actually didn't find a good substitution. I did find myself often playing Rescue into another card like Rock Slide. You also have to understand that the turn 4 Rescue into turn 5 Jessica Jones does work really well as well, especially when you consider playing Chavez on turn 6 and discarding the Infinite with the Dracula on the end of the game. So there are some piloting nuances to this particular list. I do expect you to experiment a little bit with it. It's very early in its development, but regardless, I think it's an interesting start for someone experimenting with both Dracula and with Zabu. One of my favorite things when new cards come out in Marvel Snap is when older archetypes see new life, and that's exactly what this Zabu Zoo list does. It doesn't even have America Chavez. Why do you need it? You have such a low profile on your energy curve that you can basically play something every single turn. You also have the anime Angela, the new New and Improved Angela, Big Belt Edition. And basically what it allows you to do is zoom into Angela with the likes of Nightcrawler, move around a little bit, get that value with the Sunspot and the armor, while protecting the Ant-Man lane as well. The nice thing about this list here is when you actually drop Zabu, Zabu's going to give you the opportunity to play Kazar cheap and actually replicate your hand for an additional value with Moon Girl. It really takes zooing to the next level. In fact, sometimes I find myself replicating so much that Squirrel Girl felt a little problematic with the amount of board space she took up. So if you're looking to actually sub someone out, you could consider getting rid of someone like Squirrel Girl and adding someone like Iceman instead. Something worth considering if you like the Moon Girl combination. I do like utilizing White Queen as well to give you a possible turn 6 play and also give you some scouting potential. I actually really like Crossbones in this list. In my early experimentation, Crossbones provided a really consistent play because you often always had a board state advantage, which also makes Leader worth considering in this list as well. Ultimately, I do like Blue Marvel in this list as well because it gives you a lot of additional value. This list is all about going wide. One thing it does not do is really bump up one individual lane to like excruciatingly high values. You can do that with the Angela lane to some extent and obviously the Crossbones lane as well, but most other decks can usually ramp up a little higher, so please be aware of that. A lot of other decks will have additional reach in terms of their power, while Angela and Crossbones attempt to correct that, especially with the Blue Marvel. This is very much a zoo list where you're trying to contest 3 locations on the board. You know, I almost hate myself for including a Leader list. I don't think Leader's going to last very long, by the way. I'm pretty sure Leader's going to get nerfed within the next few weeks. It just feels that way. I still think, just like I talked about on the Snapchat, it's probably going to be a 5 cost. It can only be played on 5, kind of like the Magic treatment. But until then, you can do like a value-based Zabu list that utilizes Leader to good effectiveness. You're just playing good stuff. You're playing good cards. Again, the Sunspot armor. You got Iceman, which is very disruptive. I mean, a lot of people sleep on Lizard. This is a 2/5, guys. It's a good card. It sets up a lot of board state advantage. You got Zabu, of course. If you're able to pull out Zabu, you get the value plays of Jessica Jones, Miles Morales. You got the White Queen Crossbones. Crossbones is meta now. Like, what is happening in this world? And the nice thing is you don't pull Zabu because you got bad luck like me. You don't see him for 5 games in a row. You can play Polaris, which is an absolutely great card and actually activates cards like Spider-Man, which allows you to get some additional value on the board if you have an additional 2-drop in your hand. So there is some optionality here. You also have the opportunity to get a board state advantage with cards like Crossbones and White Queen. These are high value cards. You have the disruption and the high value play of Arrow. It's very unlikely that with these cards played on tempo that they have a board state advantage on you. And so Leader ultimately is a card that allows you to kind of confidently kind of say, okay, I'm beating you by quite a bit in 2 or at least 3 lanes. I think I'm going to Leader here, and I don't think you can win. It's a very interesting play. Silver Surfer's kind of fallen off the current meta because, well, people want to experiment with Zabu. So Zabu doesn't have that burst effect that Silver Surfer does with a very specific 3-drop requirement. So Leader tends to be a very high quality play, and it's kind of cheeky, but you know what? If you want to gain cubes, it's a good approach. All right, before we talk about this list, I got a bit of a disclaimer. I inadvertently forgot for a second that Luke Cage is actually a Series 4 card. So this is the only list that kind of cheats a little bit from the description of this video where I said it was going to be all Series 3 cards. It does have Luke Cage in it, so technically it has a Series 4 card in it. Everything else is Series 3. My apologies, but I do think this list is really interesting, so I'm going to show it to you guys anyway, but I did make a minor mistake. I kind of forgot about Luke Cage for a sec, but anyways, you guys know me. I love my Hazmat and Luke Cage. I'm trying so hard not to call him Nick Cage. I think the joke has run its course. But anyways, we've got Hazmat and Luke Cage. We got the Hood, which is great because you kick it over with Viper, which gives your Hazmat an extra kind of target. Now, the amazing thing about this list in conjunction with Zabu is that you play Zabu. You can play someone like Rock Slide, which dilutes their hand, which, by the way, I'm kind of into, even if you don't have someone like Darkhawk. But the key thing is on turn 5, you can actually play Wong because it's a 2-drop, and then follow that up with Mystique on turn 5. So now you have like the Mystique Wong setup, which is absolutely insane. And then what you can do is you can actually play your Hazmat and absolutely crush their side of the board. And if you're able to play Omega Red in conjunction with Hazmat on turn 5 or 6, sorry, because of the reduced cost, then like the kind of like negative value that's being applied to the opponent will give your an Omega Red the opportunity to actually gain that 10 power advantage, considering it's a 5 on its own and Hazmat's dropping the entire side of the opponent. So there's a lot of value there. Typhoid Mary, a 4/10, sorry, is absolutely insane, especially in conjunction with Luke Cage. I do like the Odin play because it gives you kind of like that backtrack play where you can play Hazmat earlier on, follow that up with the Wong Mystique, and then play Odin on top and just re-replicate everything again. I do think it's pretty interesting. But regardless, again, a very experimental list. It does have one Series 4 card. That's my bad, guys. I kind of forgot momentarily. But I thought it was a neat list that's worth experimenting with. And you'll probably see a video on this later on in the week. All right, so let's say you're sick of Zabu already. It's been less than 24 hours, and you're like, Alex, I don't want to see this damn card anymore. I hate it. How do I counter it? I just don't want to play around it. Well, this is how you do it. Basically, the way it works is a lot of people are playing Rogue, by the way. I feel like that's kind of like a bad idea because Rogue's going to steal the Zabu ability. Yes, it removes it from them, but like, what are you going to do with it? Why? What are you going to use? You're going to use the Zabu ability. You don't want the Zabu ability. You don't want to deal with that. You want a list that just works, and that's what this list does. Basically, what you got is you got the Sunspot Armor, which I've been leaning on a lot. You got the Storm Lane Correction, which is really cool because when you got the Sunspot Armor play, like it gives you that access that your opponent doesn't have. Most importantly, and the key counter here, is you do have the Ebony Maw here, which is great because Ebony Maw gives you the opportunity to put a lot of value on the board and kind of give them this false sense of security that they can kind of win that lane by just kind of putting another 4-drop in that location. But Dr. Doom gives you the additional reach into the Ebony Maw location, as does Captain Marvel. And the important thing to understand is that they're not going to expect you to play someone like Psylocke on turn 2 to bring out Sandman on turn 3. And with that Sandman, you're suddenly laughing, my friend, because you have cards like Maximus, which are incredibly high value. Who cares if they draw additional cards? You have the Enchantress, which counters their Zabu anyway, but also, unlike Rogue, has a decent body of a 4/4. And then from there, like, it's just an easy win. You have your Arrow, which is extremely disruptive as a 5/8. You have your America Chavez on 9. And again, for the Ebony Maw location or the Sunspot Armor Storm location, you do have your Captain Marvel and your Doctor Doom, which gives you the additional reach. The game becomes easy at that point. But to be totally honest with you, if you have Psylocke and you suspect they're playing Zabu, you play your Psylocke, you snap, and then on turn 3 when you drop the Sandman, it's a free 2 cubes because they're just gonna, like, when they're playing Zabu, Sandman completely ruins them. So this list is designed to really not like affect you negatively with Sandman. However, if you don't get the Psylocke Sandman combination, much like your usual Psylocke and Mr. Negative draws that just never happen, you do have the counter potential of Enchantress to take out the Zabu and therefore give you an opportunity to kind of play these high value plays that really restrict their ability to kind of follow it up. Because without Zabu, the 4-cost cards are actually pretty awkward to play. They don't play well into turn 6. They don't play well into turn 5. They become very kind of awkward, one could say. But regardless, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. We have another video down below. Check it out if you're interested in seeing more Marvel Snap content. Thank you so much, guys, and we'll see you in the next Marvel Snap video.